This is the Trading Psychology Podcast. This is VP, creator of No Nonsense Forex and author of the book No Nonsense Forex Trading Psychology. And with me, as always, is Robb Reinhold.
Hi, everybody. This is Robb Reinhold with Maverick Currencies. I've been trading since 1997 and been a risk manager for the last 15 years.
And episode 6 is sponsored by the same company every episode is sponsored by. It's Maverick Trading and Maverick Currencies. Now, Robb, you guys have a crypto branch, and I have never heard of a crypto prop firm ever until you guys came up with this. But I don't think a lot of people know about it, so tell us more.
To my knowledge, we are the only prop firm in the world. There could be one, I just don't know about it. We're the only one in the world that actually offers crypto to our prop traders. I love crypto trading because it is, in my opinion, the most pure trading you could possibly do. When people trade stocks, they always have this idea of, oh, this has a dividend or this has value, and this value gets convoluted into what they do. I love crypto trading because it is purely supply, demand, and a chart. So I'm big into crypto. I love it. And come check us out if you want to look at crypto for prop trading.
Good. I think that's huge because not only do you get like the most 5-star prop firm in the world as is. Episode 6 is on hesitating and under trading, something that is very near and dear to my heart. And I actually have a lot to say on this. Robb, why don't you kind of open us up here? Then I'll start coming in with my goofy little anecdotes and we'll just take it from there.
In the last episode we did on overtrading, it was me who said, hey, I've had tons of experience with this. Let me talk about it. This is definitely a VP episode. This is something that I haven't really had to struggle with. The one concept I want everyone to have before we jump into how to fix undertrading is the difference between missing a trade and chickening out. Now, I want to make these very clear because they are totally different. When I use the term missing a trade, it's when you are saying, okay, I think the dollar is going to have a big move higher. I can see it going up to this level. And then it happens and you say, oh man, I shouldn't have hesitated. I missed that trade. That's not missing a trade. That is just happens all the time. Moves happen all the time. You can't catch them all. That is going to happen to you your entire career, and at some point you'll stop losing sleep about it. What we're talking about here is chickening out. So missing a trade happens all the time, nothing you can do about it. Chickening out, it's where you identify the trade and hit every single one of your points in your system that you should have entered the trade. And you chickened out, and you didn't. That's what we're talking about today.
And in no-nonsense Forex parlance, every piece of your algorithm said go, but you chose not to go. Why on earth did you do that?
Well, that is what this episode is all about. Why did you do that? So let's talk about some of the reasons why.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of go broad to narrow here because this is something that affects me as a natural introvert. But I want everybody to understand that most people are introverted. If you had 20% of this planet as extroverts, it would be absolute chaos. You know, most of us are very insular to ourselves. And, you know, and that's one of the reasons why you see so many extroverts becoming very successful, because they're the ones who aren't afraid. They're less afraid than we are to do things and try things and take risks. That's just not us. You know, we are the majority. It's tougher with us. And this is why we fall into these hesitation/under trading traps. All right. So first of all, understand that it's totally normal. Most of the world is extremely risk averse. We grew up to not take risks. Media and the TV shows we grew up with, you know, didn't really encourage risk at all. They encouraged safety above anything else. And that's just why we are the way we are. When it comes to trading, though, the biggest thing that I had noticed really before I started paying attention to this is what I saw at the poker table. I'm going to bring it back to Vegas as often as I can because Vegas takes advantage of people with bad money management and bad psychology. I guess the best way to say this is, and I'm going to totally stereotype here, but when I would sit down at a no-limit poker table, you had two different types of people, typically. You had your older pensioners, and you could kind of tell by their demeanor and by the way they dressed that life didn't really work out amazing for them, and they're on a pension now, and that pension probably didn't keep up with inflation, but they need to do something, so they're just hanging out at the poker table and playing. But because they don't have a ton of money, And because they don't have a ton of money coming in, they don't play very aggressively. They play very few hands and they only play when they know they have a really good hand. And you can scare them off of those hands a lot by betting big because they don't want to put that much money down because they simply don't have a lot of it. And they know tomorrow there's not going to be a whole lot more of it coming in. They're still sitting at a 1-2 no limit poker table, so they should know better. Yet they are very non-aggressive. Now at that same table, and again, because of the ratio I just talked about, you have a lot less of these, but the second this person sits down, let's just say in Vegas especially, early 2010s, mid 2010s, men's fashion was a lot more kind of out there when it came to hairstyles and clothing. And it was obnoxious on a lot of levels. And you totally didn't get made fun of for it. It was totally okay to have crazy hair and big Gucci glasses and Ed Hardy shirts and things like that. It was just the style back then, but it was very outward. You know what I mean? And so you would see somebody like that sit down. They would bet very aggressively. They would bring a lot more money to the table and they didn't really care if they lost it. And you could see that in the way they bet. And the old pensioners hated these people. But you have to understand why they were doing it because they already had the money. They either came from a rich family or they were drug dealers. Either way, people from a rich family and drug dealers know that if they lose all of their money today, there is a lot more coming tomorrow. So this is a really big dynamic that I saw, and I was able to carry this with me into my trading.
Patrick, as you were talking about this whole poker, the pensioner versus the cocky guy, I realized you were talking about both of me. Now, what I mean by that is one of my favorite strategies is sit down on a poker table, be very friendly, be very jovial, be talking to people, and play very recklessly. And I'll purposely turn my cards over when I've been bluffing. Oh, you got me. And I turn my cards over to show them. And I play like I'm an idiot, which is kind of like the second guy you talked about, the drug dealer / rich kid. And then once I played a couple of those hands, then I got super, super tight. And I got the people to bet against me that thought I was the idiot. And I got them to bet against me because usually they fold against you if they think you are being a good poker player. So it's funny how you just walked through my two personalities I use on the poker table.
For the majority of my life, I was really scraping by. I mean, I was scraping by in the first world. I get that. But any money I did make was very inconsistent. I learned not to really be able to enjoy it or spend it too crazy because you never knew what the next day was going to bring. Now, that was different my first few years in Las Vegas. I was making more money waiting tables than I had ever made in my entire life. There was just so much of it. I couldn't even spend it fast enough. So this is where you heard about the overconfident version of VP blowing accounts because to me, even though I didn't have a lot, I knew more was coming. Later in my career, that changed. I bought a condo. At the same time that happened, a lot of my waitering career just became not quite as lucrative as it was before and a lot less consistent. I might have a good week, but the very next week I might get no shifts, so it was really a struggle. And I was trying to become this great Forex trader with a completely different mentality than I had before. This almost really didn't have anything to do with introvert, extrovert. It just had to do with the money I had on hand. It was really quite a journey to me, left to right. And I don't know if this is going to relate to too many people here, but here's what I think will relate. And I know I'm kind of going on here, but I say this to get to this point. The changes in psychology that happen between demo trading and real money trading. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I almost think we should do a dedicated episode on that one concept because it is intense. And this is the reason why. When you're demo trading, you're that drug dealer at the poker table. It doesn't matter what happens because you can always hit the reset button. As soon as you put your actual money on the line, unless you just have, money coming out of everywhere, which most people don't have, all of a sudden everything, it all just hits different. You see that money go down. Let's say you finally start that real money account and you lose your first trade. You might look at that and say, oh my God, that is a day's work that I just lost in one trade. Now what are you going to do? Are you going to fight hard to make it back? Or are you going to curl up into a ball and start inventing reasons to not trade? And I'll start digging a little deeper into those reasons in a moment. But Rob, I want to get your take on what I just said, because I've said a lot and it kind of sets up what we're going to kind of drill down into deeper as far as the actual things that are going through your head as these things are occurring.
Patrick, you hit it right on the head again. And I'm going to go back to our talk on overtrading in the last episode. At the end of it, we said you want to only trade for one reason and one reason only, because it fit your systems and your algorithm. That's it. The second you start to tie money to your trading results, where you lost a car payment, where you made a down payment, oh my gosh, you are in so much trouble. It is virtually impossible to trade that way. If you are tying money and things that it can buy or help you with, your trading is going to really struggle.
Yeah, so I'm sure, Rob, you've seen so many of these. Let's say you're sitting down. Either things are going really well and you don't want to lose the money you just made, which is also another thing. That's very common. Or, you've lost a couple trades and now you're down and you don't want to lose any more. You are going to start losing confidence in the very system you created, the very system that you back tested and did so well for you over a long period of time. All of a sudden, you don't want to play that long game anymore. All of a sudden, you think your system is never going to work ever again, which is completely illogical. This is the psychological barrier we have in front of us at this moment. And so what's going to happen now is, let's say every piece of your system is telling you to go. You're going to look at it and say, well, this one piece here does tell me to go, but it just barely tells me to go. It's not a really A plus signal. So I'm just going to go ahead and not take the trade. Like, you will tell yourself anything. Like, oh, we got a news event coming up in 5 days. I don't want to be in this trade 5 days from now. You could have made 500 pips in that time. You don't know, but you start creating these reasons, right? And as soon as you do that, you are no longer trading with a system. You are officially trading by fear. Because now, what determines a good signal and what doesn't? Have you set parameters for that? Of course not. Now it's all what your brain thinks is a good signal. Now, did you back test your brain? Do you have any idea how your brain would have done under normal conditions? Because I have a pretty good idea of how it would have done. Would have done really, really bad. But your system does really well, yet you are so quick to divert from it as soon as real money enters the fray, whether it's on the positive side or on the negative side. This is the conundrum risk-averse people encounter. And that's just one of probably the dozens of reasons why you might chicken out on a trade as a naturally risk-averse person. Do you have any other possibilities here, Rob? Because I know I'm leaving so many out.
No, there are so many, but they all fit into one category or one bag. We call that baggage at Maverick. In episode 1, we talked about don't bring baggage into your trade. And remember I told the story about one of our traders who literally burns up the piece of paper of their last trade? And I talked about how they're doing that to really get it out of their mind. Patrick, you talked about how much prior trades can affect your decisions. What about if your system hit everything perfect 3 times in a row and you had 0 for 3, all losers? The 4th time it hits, there's going to be something going on in your brain that's not about your system. It's not about what you've already pre-planned. It's about what happened in the past. Everything is about getting rid of that baggage to where every trade is only made because it's a good setup and a good setup only, period.
And I even want to pull back on that point a little bit because I know in our spreadsheet, we have a whole episode pretty much dedicated to that one phenomenon right there. But it's such a big one. And I apologize to the audience out there that we're not really tackling it now. We're going to tackle it in the future. But trust me, once you see how much time we're going to dedicate to it, I think it's going to be worth it. But we know that's a thing too. You start losing faith in your system for absolutely no reason. Now, what you don't know, or what you probably don't remember, is when you were back testing that system, there were times where it lost 3, 4, 5 trades in a row. But when you're back testing, you didn't think about that. You just let it run its course over the span of 3 or 4 years. And that's how you got to the result you got to. So I know Rob in a moment is going to talk about ways to where you can overcome this. But what I've always said on my channel is just to think logically about it. It all of a sudden didn't just turn into a bad system. You're just taking these losses a lot more personal than you should, and you're not separating yourself from the actual result. And therefore, you're looking way too short term. And you just have to get yourself away from that. Now, I didn't really have a solution in terms of ways you could do that. I was pretty much just standing up here saying, look, you're being stupid. You're not thinking straight. So start thinking straight, which really is not a great solution. Rob, why don't you take it from here and start mentioning some of the ways we can actually take action and avoid situations like this. And then I'll jump in where I can.
All right. Now, if you remember the first episodes 1 through 4, 1 through 4 were everything about this. And in episode 4, we talked about behavior change and we talked about pre-contemplation. That stage was where you didn't even know that you had a problem. You weren't even aware of you had a problem. You thought you were coming into every single trade with a clear head, but you weren't. Once you get to contemplation, all of a sudden, everything changes. In episode 1, we talked about having a ritual that you do every single time you sit behind a system to make sure that you are clear of mind. You've tried to clear out all the baggage out of your past trades and get to the point where you are actually making rational decisions. I'm going to go back to those ideas and concepts. When you sit down, you need to be aware, self-aware, that you likely have baggage in your head. And you need to spend some time before you make any decisions saying, okay, we talked about hunger, we talked about sleep, we talked about being hungover. Is there anything in your life right now that is making it very difficult to make a decision? Are you late on your rent? That's going to really affect your decisions. Are you feeling like you've got a ton of money right now because you've had a bunch of good trades that have just happened to you lately? As long as you are aware of this, all of a sudden, now you can actually start to take some action. And that's what we're going to talk about, is how to prepare for this. We talked about, number 1, making sure that you have a daily routine so you're coming in every time rational and ready to go. Number 2, clearing out all the old baggage, making sure that whatever happened in your past trades won't affect you in the next ones. Number 3, having the right mindset. Now, one of the things I want to talk about that we talk a lot about at Maverick is that traders that have a singular trade mindset, they really, really struggle with this. And what I mean is they look at every trade as its own event. Okay, this is my one trade today. I'm going to trade dollar yen. I'm going to get in because my system told me to get in. I'm going to get out, and my P&L was X amount of dollars. Okay, look, that is how every trade goes. But if you think, I did that one, I'm going to do the next one, do you see how all of your focus is on every single trade, and it's going to be this fight? At Maverick, we teach our traders, trade in blocks. You're going to make 10 trades over the next month, whatever it is, however frequent you trade. You're trying to have good numbers on that block of 10. Do you see how all of a sudden, just by that one mindset shift, you no longer are trying to win every trade? You're trying to win on the group. One of my favorite stories that I love to tell people is early on as a trader. If you sat down with me and asked me, Rob, do you think you can make money on every single trade? I'd say, of course not. That's ridiculous. Nobody can. And then if you ask me, hey, Rob, do you think you're going to make money on this trade? Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to make money on this trade. This is a good one. Do you see how absolutely ridiculous that is? I know I can't make money on all the trades, but this one, I know for sure because I was so locked into that one trade. Patrick, do you see that a lot with people that you talk to?
For sure. They're either really optimistic about the very next trade or very pessimistic about the very next trade. I'm like, it's not about the very next trade. It wasn't when you back tested, nor should it be now. People just don't factor in everything. Like you even said with 10 trade blocks. I like that idea. My only issue with it is I don't think it's big enough. I would almost say look at 30, 40 trade blocks and see what you can do there. Because I've lost 8 out of 10 before and it sucked. But I don't want to let that skew my view on my own system that I know is going to work really well for me in the future. So no, absolutely. That's the only thing I would go for is just if I haven't said this enough, on my channel and maybe even on this episode is you have to zoom out because it's not about what's going on right now. It never is. So if you can separate yourself from that, then you're going to go a long way. But I probably said this until I was blue in the face and it still doesn't really take. So we need to figure out ways we can kind of maybe prep for this, before the trades even occur, which is what I really like about what you were saying, Rob. Do you have anything to add on the preparatory front?
And the last one I want to add into is position sizing. Position sizing can totally change the trade. If you make this position size too large, it is going to force these feelings onto you. It's going to make it to where it is so intense that you're going to have to relieve the pressure. Where if you make a trade that's too big and it starts to go your way, when you see your P&L, that pressure is so much. And as human beings, we don't like that pressure. And we want to take action to remove the pressure. If your position size is too big and it goes against you, you're going to do the same thing. Anything that causes you to deviate from your system is wrong. If you use correct position sizing on every single trade, it is going to really help this whole thing out. And this goes back to what Patrick said earlier about, can you handle the loss? If you can't handle the loss, then you can't handle the trade.
No. Like, would you want to bring somebody on to your prop firm and take on all that liability if they handled losses poorly?
Absolutely not. That's what we look for.
Yeah, right. It's probably like the number one thing you look for, right? And it kind of leads into what I was going to say. And like I said, I should have said this sooner, but there are a lot of people out there who don't trade with real money and have no plans to trade with their own real money. Even though later on in my channel, I've told people like, look, you really need to do this anyway because you need to know how it feels and you need to get used to that psychology. But I also said in my patience video, you need a lot of money already to be successful at Forex to where you can do it for a living. 10, 15, 20% of not much is still not much. So you need a lot, but there is the prop firm route. So it doesn't have to be this way. For some reason, like so many people just never thought of that. Glad I was able to bring that to them. But what that did is it made a lot of people just go straight from the demo side into the auditioning side for a prop firm. Now, this is not a whole different psychology, but it's different than actually having real money on the line. You can just keep hitting the reset button over and over again every time you fail. But let's say you're doing well, and now you're 2 or 3 months in, and your prop firm wants to see 6 months of results. Now you really can't go back without having to wait another 3 months to start over again. So you really don't want to do that. All of a sudden you tighten up and now you only want to take the most premium trades possible. Well, the most premium trades possible are what your system is giving you. There is no more premium than that. You keep putting this extra layer of nonsense over the top of things. All that does is lead to hesitation and undertrading.
I think everyone can see that there is so much potential baggage out there. We could spend the next hour going over all of the baggage that you could take into a trade. We don't have time to do that. So what we need you to do is be very self-aware of every single thing that goes into what could potentially get you to change your system. We need you to be paranoid, and we need you to be on guard. And once you do that, then all of a sudden, it becomes much easier with preparation, action, and then creating a positive feedback loop. And that's what session 4 was all about behavior change, is how do you get to the point where you make this automatic in your mind? So let's go back through preparation real quick. Number 1, take proper risk. Do not make your position sizes too big. Do not make them too small, because I've made trades that are too small. Guess what? I don't care enough about them to sometimes move my stop or sometimes to adjust my trade because they're so small I don't care about them. Make sure you follow proper position sizing. Number 2, daily rituals. Make sure you got your daily rituals. Make sure that you're looking at things the right way. Meditation, whatever you need to do to get there, do it. 3, trade in blocks. Don't think about singular trades. And Patrick, you were right. 10 was just the smallest number I threw out. You really should be looking at blocks of like 25 to 50 to 100. That's going to be more indicative of your actual trading success.
I love that block theory, by the way. That's the first time I've really heard anybody say that. That's the first time I've ever really considered it. I think I could have sped up my learning curve a little bit had I had known about that in the past. So that's a killer piece of alpha.
We have traders do blocks of 25, and they turn in blocks of 25. Once they're done with 25 trades, they turn them in, and then we go through them, we analyze them. And it's all about what can we do to get the win-loss and profit factor and draw down lower out of that block of 25 trades. We don't care about your dollar-yen trade or your Aussie-Kiwi trade. We don't care about that trade. We care about that block and how well you're doing. It's very, very important to look at trading this way. Let's go on next to the concrete steps. First one, we talked about take proper risk. You must use position sizing calculators. I can do things in my head. I've always been good at math. I love math. And no, I did not say meth. I said math. I want to make sure people know that. And I can do it in my head, and I can get pretty close. Here's the problem. Sometimes you can get a little lazy. Sometimes some other things pop in your head. Use a strict position sizing calculator. Patrick, do you have any that you recommend?
No, what we do on No Nonsense Forex is I was going to jump in on this too because we just do 2%. It's non-negotiable. 2% on everything because as different pairs have different volatilities. So why would you risk more on one and not the other? That's almost to say that you have a better chance on this pair than you do this pair. That doesn't make any sense. So 2% all across the board, pretty easy to figure out. I'm actually guilty of not being super precise with mine sometimes because I can almost do it in my head so quickly because I've done it for so long. 2% is what we do. So that really doesn't affect too many of my traders.
Perfect. Religious use of a position sizing calculator. Number 2, we want to break any baggage that you're bringing in from your past trades. So let's have you do some sort of ritual. Something where I just got done with my one trade. It was a win or a loss, whatever it was. Who cares? What are you going to do mentally to make sure that you're not bringing in baggage? One of the things people do if you're a shorter term trader, I always like the rule to go out and take a walk. Turn off your system. Like fully power down your system. Go out and take a walk. What that does is that breaks this stimulus. It breaks this chain to where, okay, that one is truly over. That one is truly done. Now look, burn up your piece of paper. Don't burn up your office. But look, whatever you need to do, make sure that you are sitting down the next time with a clear head. And then the last one, journal everything. You've got to journal everything and focus on the blocks. Focus on the blocks and say, hey, I want to have positive results over my next 25 trades. That is your goal. You don't care about any one trade, you care about the block. Basically, take all the steps you can do to when you're sitting down, everything's clear, you're not going to hesitate because you're going to want to hesitate. There's going to be things that cause you to hesitate. You shouldn't have any problem because you've already done all the work before you even sat down. What do you think, Patrick?
I think it's great. I think that block theory, if you're just able to look at it not by a trade by trade scenario and more, look, I'm just trying to fill a 25 trade block with trades. I think that is a good baby step towards solving what is really a major problem for a lot of people that doesn't just have a, take this pill and call me in the morning type remedy. This is something you got to take little by little. You're not just going to say, okay, I'm going to think different now and tomorrow is going to be a brand new day and everything's going to be good again. No, go in smaller steps here. And I think looking at it as a series of 25 to 30 to 40 trades, as opposed to, one trade or two trades is a really, really big step. If you can just get yourself there, I think you're going to be in good shape. And if you can learn to do this on demo, it will be a lot easier to transition once you get into real money because now you know what you're looking for.
The singular trade mindset is so dangerous to a new trader. I really, really want you to just think about it. It's not a singular trade. It's a group of a bunch. I promise you that in 3 months from now, you won't even remember that you made today. It's meaningless. It's totally meaningless. But if you are focused on a singular trade, then all of a sudden it has this binary outcome. I'm either going to win or lose. And that's scary. That's really scary to have to make the right decision. And then you're going to have this binary results of win or lose, feel good or feel crappy. Take that away from yourself. Take that away from yourself. No longer think as a singular trade mindset and start to think of blocks. That right there, I think is really going to help people with hesitation.
Yeah, and I'm so glad we didn't say, okay, here, do A, then B, and then C, and then D. No, start with A because that's a big step. If you can just do that, like where I am right now, like people say, oh, so what was your best trade ever? I couldn't even tell you. I don't remember, no matter how good the trade was. I always have this like creeping dread that I'm really just like making my account go up to absorb losses later anyway. So it's like, I don't even care if it's a really great trade. I can only recall the times I really did something stupid. I could tell you those stories, but I'm to the point now to where no matter how good or bad a trade is, as long as I did it the right way, it's just a trade. It's a fraction of the whole. But I know a lot of you guys aren't there yet, but just know you can get there. Even without this block theory, I got there, but I got there the long way. We don't want you to take 8 years to solve one problem. So start here. I think it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, if you can just remove this binary result of every trade you make, whether it's win, loss, success, failure, that is so dangerous. Remove this binary result of one trade and put it onto a group of trades where it's truly how good am I as a trader? How good can I get my trade numbers to be? That's going to put you in a wonderful situation for success.
And so I think that wraps it up. Does it, Rob? Let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Yeah, we have gone on quite a bit about this, but I think it's something really important. And I think this is something that affects the majority of traders. So I think it was worth spending a lot of time on. But thank you for joining us here at the Trading Psychology Podcast. We are absolutely now on Spotify. We're just hard to find. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link for that down below in the description so all you Spotify listeners can start there. But on behalf of Rob Reinhold, this is VP. Thank you for joining us at the Trading Psychology Podcast here on No Nonsense Forex. This is VP signing off.
Thanks, everybody.